amplified overdrive guitar through the DigiTech. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. You're in the right place at the right time. Blasting out of the East Coast like a ray screaming across the land and into your town and into your home, slamming into your Mac like a supercharged DeLorean running on plutonium. Greetings from an undisclosed location. This is LogicProHacks.
We are here for another hack using an old DigiTech RP6. Found it at a pawn shop a while back. Got it for a good deal. I didn't know if there was going to be anything wrong with it or any issues. And apparently there is one small issue with this unit, and that is one of the channels is not working. It's like there's barely any volume coming out of the left channel. So what I did is I created a stereo to mono adapter. You can see I have a little type of jerry-rigged mono 1/4-inch adapter that I've spliced some RCA cables into, and then that goes into my guitar input, which is on the back of this thing. There's a guitar input right there, and then this guy right here is another type of mono to stereo adapter, and I got stereo, and both these leads are going into the Mac, and I'll show you what it looks like in a second. So let's go ahead and turn this guy around. Alright, so you can see in the back you have your input channel, which is where someone would stick their guitar cable into. You have headphones. Trust me, I tried headphones too, and it seems like left side wouldn't work. Let's go ahead and just take this out for a second and show you what's going on here. You can see that you can tell this is a mono cable because you only have one of these lines. Here's a stereo. See how you have two little lines right there? That's a stereo. This is a mono. You see how it all has one black line. Two. Alright, so we got that straight. And then what this does is it splits the signal, the mono signal, and puts it in two different sides where I can take a tip and ring type of cable that goes into 1/8. Yo, that's right. So the right side is the side that's working. The left side is the mono side. For some reason, it's not working on this unit, which is fine. And I was able to get around it, and I was still able to create some really amazing sounds out of this thing. And by the way, I will be selling this thing on eBay. So if you want to do the same type of hack that I'll be doing, you can buy this unit on eBay. I'll put it on my store. I'm eBay user LogicProHacks, just like my YouTube channel. So check it out. I'll show you the cable connections on the Mac. So in this mess of wires here, I'm always connecting stuff, so I didn't really have time to do any kind of cable management, but I want to show you what's going on here. Let's go ahead and just pull this guy out. This right here is the output of the Mac. This is line output, and you can see this is a stereo. Let's get it to focus. My hand's in the way, so it doesn't want to focus right. There we go. You can see how you have the two black rings around it. You know that's stereo. This is going into the guitar input, which goes into this guy right here, which is it's very jerry-rigged. I have a female and male RCAs. And the RCA is going into the input on the other side, and then this other one right here is the one is my input side. You can see, let's see, input, that little symbol right there. That's input. Stereo line input. Again, two, see if we can see it. Focus, come on, focus. There you go. Two black rings. So, you know, that's stereo. So we got stereo in and stereo out. And go into some hacked up jerry-rig cables. And here, let's show you my hacked up jerry-rig cable settings. This is just your power cable that goes to the unit. You can see you look like someone was in some death metal band and they had some fun with this thing or something. And they went "Rawr!" and hit it too hard with their heel or something. So that's the only dent on this thing. These things are built very solid. I actually took this thing apart and just kind of was seeing it, and the metal on this thing is very heavy. It's not like the newer stuff that's just made of plastic. So this thing is built like a tank. So it'd be perfect for a death metal band, because in case you want to do any thrashing with it, it'll definitely survive. So let's go ahead and I'll show you this one jerry-rig cable I made here. Here's the adapter. This is a little adapter cable that I found that, you know, I'm trying to take a mono signal and split it into a stereo. And this is just a regular RCA cable. You can see, let's get a close-up of it, and you can see how I took the two positive leads and put it on one side and the two negative leads on the other side. And you can see the side, the positive is the one that's going to touch the very tip, and the negative is going to be the one that's going to be on the side. And that's how you're going to make your connection for a stereo to mono type of connection. And then again, here is the cables. It's the RCA male female cables. You can find these type of adapters on Amazon or eBay or whatever. They're very easy to find. This is just what I had, and I'm trying to do a mono to stereo signal send. So because on a Mac, it doesn't allow you to separate the channels for the line in and line output, and that's what I'm using. Same deal here. This is my output, which is going into the line input of the Mac, and this is my input, which is coming from the line output from the Mac, going into the guitar input, and this is coming out of the right side. The left mono side is not working on this unit, but I'm still able to get some really good sounds. I got this unit for really cheap at my local pawn shop, and I'm pretty happy with the sounds I got out of it. It's going to work great for the project I'm using right now, and I'll show you right now. Let's go ahead and let's go into Logic, and I'll show you that.
We are back in Logic.
LogicProHacks 10.2, the latest and greatest. What I want to do is I want to show you how I'm routing the audio in the MIDI audio editor. All right, so you go in your applications folder, go all the way down to your utilities folder, and into your utilities folder, you'll see an icon called Audio MIDI Setup. Mine's already open, so let's go ahead and open that. Let's do Show Audio Window. And this is what we want. We want to get a hold of this guy right here. And then down here, you can see I have an aggregate channel set up. You just go hit this little plus mark, and it'll create a new aggregate channel. And in this aggregate channel, I have a audio box USB as my main output. And then I also have Soundflower. Soundflower you do not need to have. I just use this so that I can get my voice and the music recorded so that you guys could actually hear this on YouTube. But what you will need is you will need to enable this one that's called built-in line input and built-in line output. I always put my, oops, there it goes. Look at that. In Mavericks, mine seems to do that. That's if I'm in here and there's a bug in it. I really don't like Mavericks. It seems not as stable as Snow Leopard used to be. If I had my way, I'd go back to Snow Leopard, but you can't use Logic X, the latest and greatest, on Snow Leopard. So there you go. I'm stuck with Mavericks. And I will not upgrade to the Yosemite. If I say that right, I I'm a type of person that anytime you do upgrades, you risk the chance of plugins not working. So I don't do it unless absolutely necessary. And it was absolutely necessary for me to upgrade to Mavericks on this computer because I really like the newest and latest, greatest version of Logic. Now, granted, I'm using a Mac Pro 1.1, the very first edition of the Mac Pro Tower computers. I have hacked the computer internally and I've upgraded the processors to an 8-core processor system. It used to be 4 cores. And there's an upgrade kit you can get on eBay. It's really easy to do. And there's a video that you can find on YouTube that walks you through it. It's really nice. If you have a Mac Pro, you could do that. It will put a little bit more strain on your power supply, so just keep that in mind. If you have a bunch of hard drives in there, you may run into issues. But I did not have that many hard drives in mine, or graphics cards, heavy graphics cards. Knock on wood, I will not have any power issues. Because the issue when you upgrade a processor, it's going to take up more power from the power supply and put more strain and stress on it. So just keep that in mind. Now, back on subject here, I also had to do, because the Mac Pro 1.1 will not support Mavericks. So there is a firmware hack. If you just Google it, to Mavericks on Mac Pro 1.1, you'll find a couple blogs that show you how to do it, and that's what I did. And it's a firmware hack that you put on a USB stick, and you basically load a new firmware, or basically what it does is it overrides the firmware and enables you to put Mavericks on a Mac Pro 1.1 tower computer. So it's really nice using this computer this way for like 6 months, something like that. So, and I like it. It's taken a little getting used to Mavericks, but it's good. Saves me from upgrading the computer and spending like $4,000 to get a new Mac Pro 1.1, which I just don't have. Who in the world has that kind of money to buy a Mac Pro? Really? I mean, I could barely scrape up $1,000, and if I did, I'd buy like a really nice keyboard, freaking Macs. Anyways, back on subject. The built-in line, what you need built-in line input and built-in line output. That enabled. I have my audio box enabled because that's where my stereo output's going to go. Soundfire you do not need enabled. And look at this. You got that. It's 3 and 4 on the input and 3 and 4 on the output. Soundfire is 5 and 6 for input and output. All right, so got that straight. Let's go ahead and close it out. And then you will see what I did is I created an instrument called Telecaster. It's just basically, it's an instance of Sculpture. Let's blow this guy up to 150 so you can see it real good. All right, so in Sculpture, there is a setting called, under Pluck Instruments, called Telecaster. You just enable that, hit that, and it'll come up, default setting. The only thing I did is I took off the delay. I just checked that right there because I didn't want the delay interfering, because I'm going to get delay in from something else. The EQ this is a modeling EQ, so it's a little bit different from a normal EQ. I actually leave this on because what it does is it actually models the real instrument in some aspect. I believe there's an algorithm that is in this EQ that it's very advanced and it works very well. Granted, there may be some smarty pants out there who will tell me otherwise, but from what I read and what I understand, this is a modeling EQ and it models the actual instrument. So leave that engaged unless you want to change it. What I found was it just made it sound a little duller. And I decided to leave it on. So that's all you need to do on the Telecaster setting. As you notice, I have my output set for 3 and 4. Now 3 and 4, remember when we had the audio window up, 3 and 4 is the output of my line output. So basically what 3 and 4 is it's taking the Sculpture signal and it's going out. It's sending it out on my line output. And it's actually going into the DigiTech RP6 Guitar input. Let's go ahead and let's show you. Let's get to the camera here and I'll show you what's going on. So you can see right here, this little jerry-rigged hacked cable. This is my input, which is coming from the output 3 and 4 on the Telecaster. It's going into the guitar line input. And this one right here is going back out into the line input of the Mac. So let's go ahead. So 3 and 4 goes out, and then I've created an audio channel, and I set the input of the audio channel to input 3 and 4. So that's going to receive the signal that's coming, the process signal from the DigiTech RP6 will be coming back and fed into here. This is what it sounds like normally. Let's go ahead and just unmute these guys. Just give you a little play of what this is going to sound like. I have it set in fifths, C chord fifths, and kind of like a stab pattern. Let's hear it. All right, so a boring Telecaster sound from Sculpture, which is good. You kind of want a boring sound, very kind of dull, almost like an initialized setting sound that you would get from a synthesizer. That would actually work really well. We could probably use the retro synth here if you wanted to do something like that and just set it as initialized sound. See here, I added some reverb, and bus 10 and bus 11 is harmonizers. So let me explain a little bit about what harmonizers do before I give you the big show and tell on this. So let's go ahead and open up a mix window. All right, so bus 10 and 11, let's go down here into bus 10 and 11. You can see right here, I have a harmonizer left, and harmonizer right. And I'm using this thing called the P shift, the pitch shifter. And let's open up the other one. I have two different ones, and they're both using different settings for the left and the right. Now, if you were to take two exact signals, and duplicate them and pan one signal like a guitar signal and pan the other on the right, it would just basically sound like you doubled up the volume. It wouldn't really sound right. It almost like you would have to offset the right one or the left one from each other so they're not exactly identical. Because what happens is you're going to get into some phasing issues if you have them exactly identical, from my understanding. So to compensate for that, you can do is this sort of like a chorusing effect, but it's a little bit cooler. So what I do is you mess with the delay levels. This is a 9.7. You can mess with this, and then the delay level on the other one. So what this is doing is this is offsetting each channel by a couple milliseconds, just enough to keep it from making some weird phase issues. 9.7, so you can copy these settings. And then up here, you can see that there's 0 and 0 for because I'm not really doing anything, but the sense is kind of like if you had two partials in a synth and you wanted to add some detuning. This is kind of like the same scenario here. You have -9 right here, and then you got a +14 right there, both set them for vocals. And then I have the mix level set to 40%. Anything higher than 50% just sounds kind of weird. Sounds like if you added a chorus and you jacked up the chorus, it's just going to sound really out of tune. You could push it, just play with it by ear. Like on vocals, I actually turn it down to like around 30%. And vocals, it just sounds like crap if you have it higher than 30. But you can play with it. It depends on what kind of MIDI you're working with. So that's my harm right and harm left settings. And make sure you pan them. And then what I did is I set both of these to a bus 12, and then I put on the default setting of modulation delay. I believe that's what I have. And then I'll set it at 40% output mix modulation delay. And that is on the bus channel of what's going on. So this is a really cool effect, and it sounds really nice on guitars. Sounds really nice on airy vocals. Go ahead and shut that out. So that is my harm. That is bus 10 and bus 11. So you need two different buses to do this. Granted, this is actually coming in mono by itself. Good for mono signals too, because it gives it a real wide sound. It's really nice. The next one is just a stereo delay that I have set. If we go in here and hit the automation, you can see that. Let's go ahead and click this out. You can see that I have a stereo delay, and it's just hitting at the end so that you get a nice little tail at the end of the phrasing. Oh yeah, and then I got an EQ. There's a setting in Logic, Acoustic Guitar Improv 01. It sounds really nice. I think I tailed it off on each side, just tweaked it a little bit. Really adds to it. I really like that setting. It's very nice for guitars. Even though it's electric guitar, it still sounds good. The theme that I'm talking about here is you just got to use your ears and just play with it. Whatever sounds good to you. There's no real rule in this. And then a limiter. Limiter setting, it's just your basic limiter setting. I believe I have it set on precision. There is some difference in these settings here. I don't know exactly. I know that the legacy is something that was brought over from Logic 9, so there's different algorithms for each setting. I tend to like the precision sound a little bit better. I have my my gain set to 1 and my output a -2. I always keep it at the negative because it'll still clip if you had it at like 0. Now let's go ahead and let's play this guy. Amplified guitar, overdrive guitar through the DigiTech. All right, here we go. Yeah. I really love the sound that I was able to get out of it. Let's go ahead and I'll show you what kind of setting I have on the DigiTech. So on the DigiTech here, you see that there is an F11 setting that I'm using. And so what I did is I just hit this here and I just kind of was scrolling through the banks, the setting, the Telecaster setting, going through the outputs like I showed you. I was just going through each setting and just finding something I liked. And all I did is I just turned off the reverb and just click this once to turn off the reverb. And this setting has like some modulation and the distortion. The thing I really like about this unit, even though the left channel is not working right, I really like the distortion from this. The distortion from this thing really sounds nice. I don't know what they did on this model, but I really like it. I've played with a lot of emulation distortions in Logic, and it just does not sound as good as this guy does. The distortion on this guy is really nice. I like it. And then it comes with some modulations and flangers inside here, and that sounds really good too. The reverb on this guy, I didn't really like the reverb on this guy. It sounded almost dirty, like it had some noise in it, and it just didn't sound clean to me. So that's why I took the reverb off, and I was using the reverb in Logic. Let's get back into the window here and show you a little bit more. I'll try to make this video short today. So the other thing I noticed, like when I did do this, was there was a little bit of delay when I played this guy. Like it would be off by like, I had to basically move this guy down and line it up with here by like maybe a couple ticks or something like that. It was off a little bit. And I think that's due to the latency. There's a little bit of latency that's coming in once it goes out of this channel and then it comes into this channel. And that's normal. And what I do is I just record the parts in, record enable the track, and that's all I really did. And I just tighten it up, cut it up, fit, line it up with this right here. And then let's go ahead and just mute these tracks. This is a really cool trick you could do with any type of keyboard sound, synth sound. There's tons of settings on the DigiTech RP6 that you could play with, because you could do stereo on this thing. You could put in a mono signal and it'll come out stereo with the effects on this thing, but my stereo just does not work on this, but it still sounds nice once I hit harmonizer, pitching, effects. All right, guys, have fun with this one. If you have any comments, suggestions about using your own distortion plugins or your outboard equipment, hit me up with a comment. I'd love to discuss this. By the way, this is a template. It's actually named DigiTech Angel. It's a really cool electro progressive song, and it's using the guitar. I'm going to be selling this template on my eBay site, LogicProHacks. I will probably throw it up at We Make Dance Music. It's a template site, really big template site. I'm there too. Just look for Faded Shadows, DJ username, or you could look at eBay store LogicProHacks. All right, guys, have a good one. And stay groovy, my friends. Stay groovy.